And good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, people.
Percy Thomas here with me, Doug Marcaida, and we're going to do some collie talk. And basically, what we're going to do is try this whole thing where if you have any questions, you've seen a lot of our videos, but do you know our history? Do you know the people behind the videos? Well, a lot of my training videos that you see out there, I've done with Percy. Percy and I have been together training for, since early 1990s, actually,
yep, 91.
right?
Yep.
91.
91.
Wow, do the math. That's how old we are. Plus that, and he was already 60 years old when I met him.
Yep. I was 67.
I was 67 now, right? But, a lot of times we do our videos. And what you see is basically when we get together, Percy's a representative of Marcaida Collie in the Westchester area, New York City area. And it's our training. We get up early in the morning, we get together, we train, we do a lot of the stuff that we used to do together, but a lot of repetition, a lot of exploring. That's one of the things to do is we explore. What else can we do with this? What else? So there's a lot of repetition. It is not the complete system. I mean, what you see is just a piece of it. A lot of times you go, well, that's not going to work. That's not a fight. That won't work in a fight. It's not a fight.
Right.
It's training, That won't work. I don't want to ever find out if it works. Why do you want to get into a fight with weapons, right? So a lot of that is the beauty and the excitement of just movement. And we like the action of, the violent motions of martial arts, but we train it in a more mellow way. We're not trying to kill each other.
Right.
It's like a dance that works if you ever need it. Right? What are your thoughts on martial arts?
Yeah, as far as like the collie, that's what I love about the collie is the constant flow, the constant drilling, as opposed to just, okay, we're going to do 1, 2, or we're going to do a certain set of movements. It's a constant flow. We go back and forth, we change, we try different things. That's the beauty of collie too, is very simplistic, but it's also very complex. And so the complexity comes in with the movements and changing and switching and changing hands, changing sides. That's what I really love about it. It's easy to get a small piece of it, but then there's so much complexity around learning and being very proficient at the training. And you can change anything to do whatever you want to focus on. So no matter what you want to focus on, whether it's blocking or passing or shooting in or sparring, there's an aspect of the training that you can take and you can turn it into a drill or you can turn it into live sparring, but it's never, like I say, we're never fighting, we're training. And that's what I love. I just love training. And the art of training is what I really get from the Marcaida style, is the art of training.
Yeah, I think one of the things that when it comes to martial arts, you get into it taking from combative, violent movements, but it's put together in such a way that everybody who's practicing it is not going to get hurt. That's one of the things. So when you see the Filipino martial art drills that happen, these are combative moves on its own. But instead of I'm training just to attack a person, we have the other person actually do their part of the drill where they're doing combative moves, but we're matching. And the reason you're matching is because this way, if I'm doing a strike, he's learning how to block. If he's doing a strike, I'm learning how to block. So it's a give and take. But it's done so that no one really gets hurt because it's just muscle memory that you're developing there. But later on, just like everything else, when you start to do things in terms of sectors, if there's an attack coming from this sector, here's the answer to that. If it's this sector, here's the answer. So that's all preset. Then later on, it becomes free flow. I'm not going to tell you where it's coming. Or later on, we're going to start to add a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But you're supposed to only react with the things that you've learned that way. Otherwise, might as well just fight, right? It's not about winning a fight. It's about learning the skills to use in that training drill. Then later on, when it's free flow, you go, well, there's only so many places that you can go. So that's why I always have this dissection, right? I have, in this dissection here, I have 4 sectors that you can see, right? You have 1, 2, 3, 4. Anything has to come and it's covering me. So if I have one answer for that, it's always going to be the same answer for that. An illustration of this, and I'll keep it simple here, is, for example, Percy gives me a strike here, right? So, simple thing. I block, check, and I strike, right? Block, check, and strike. Block, check, and strike. Block, check, and strike. In Kali, let's make it different now. He's going to use it with a stick, and I'll use it with this. So I'm block, check, and strike. I block, check, and strike. I block, check, and strike. Same answer for this sector coming here. If he's giving a backhand here, let's say I weapon, check, and strike. I weapon, check, and strike. I weapon, check, and strike. And let's say it was a fist, a back fist, weapon, check, and strike. I go weapon, check, and strike, weapon, check, and strike. So we have two different sectors. So what we're talking about here right now is I'm giving you two different sectors right now. So whether he feeds on this or that, it's the same thing that I'm going to do. So the motion's one here, and here, one, and here. But he can do the same thing over and over, over and over, over and over, over. And I'm just looking at the sectors that it's coming from. Now, this could be from a stick or a kick. Let's say if a stick on stick, then I have this. Or if that was a punch, it's the same answer. So I've learned one way to deal with that so that wherever it happens, I can. Now, is it going to be perfect? No. You're going to adjust because he could just fake out, throw another jab. So the thing is, you're learning letters in the beginning. Letters, and then you learn penmanship on how to do those letters, and then later on we create words. And you find different ways to write those words, right?
Yep.
And one of those things I tried is like ABC. Just your ABCs. ABCs can also be an AAC. BBC, CAB, but you still involve those three letters there. By changing the format of the letters, you're actually adding variations of the same thing. It's still an ABC, and you're learning more and more and more. That's why we're constantly changing the tools that you're training with. What makes, when I say penmanship, could be the kind of pen you're writing with, right? Right now, let's say I am writing with a stick, right? 1, 2, 3. Now, I'm writing with a sword. 1, 2, 3. What if I'm writing with a sword held in this grip, right? 1, 2, 3. Or if it's a karambit, 1, 2, 3. What if I add the flail before that strike? Or if it becomes boxing, that becomes my strike. If we involve elbows, that's the strike. It's the same thing. The penmanship was a different tools. Because different tools give you different kinds of resistance, different kind of feel, right? There's distancing that's involved. You don't cut yourself. There's a weight involved. We try to get it heavier with other materials. So basically, in Kali, we give you these little things that it becomes complex, but it's not. It's still those, wow, that's really complex motions and all that. No, it's still ABC, except you saw it as a BAC or BCB, or different ways of sharing that. That's why it becomes different.
Right, because I tell my guys, like when we're training, so whether, like the same thing, whether it's a punch that's coming from angle one, or a kick that's from an angle one, or an elbow from angle one, it's still angle one. So you may deal with it a little differently, but it's still an angle one. So the way you deal with it, because it's a kick or a knife or a sword, the way you deal with it is the same, but the angle makes it a little simple, and then you just have to know, okay, this is what they're coming with a leg, or they're coming with a hand, or they're coming with a blade, so then you can react accordingly, but it's always that same angle. So whether it's angle 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, you know the angle already. Now you just have to adjust according to what they're coming with. So it just simplifies it, but it's still complicated because the different
There's
weapons,
a lot of moves and coordination.
Yep, the distancing, like he was just
But
saying.
once you learn it, once you learn it, now, from my point of view, I know I've studied, you've studied different martial arts too, right? What have you studied?
So I studied Wing Chun. I'm instructor Wing Chun. I studied Capoeira. I've studied some Jiu-Jitsu. I've studied a little bit of Muay Thai, but mostly Wing Chun, Capoeira, and the Kali. Those are my three, basic, but I definitely started in Wing Chun. And so same thing, there's some similarities. There's always similarities, but there's always some differences too. So like the Wing Chun is more stationary. The capoeira is very fluid, right? You're moving, you're doing cartwheels, you're doing acrobatic stuff, and then you have the Kali, which is a little bit stationary, but very fluid. So for me, it's a marrying of actually all three, because some of the footwork that we do in Kali is similar to the way we do it in capoeira. Some of the stuff we do in Wing Chun is similar in association to the stuff that I've learned in Kali. So there's always a line where I can kind of like find the similarities and work on the differences, because working on the differences is actually what helps you grow, right? And the similarities help you understand so that when you take the next step, you're able to better grasp what the concepts are coming from.
Yeah. And when you say similarities with that, there are similarities and the differences lie in how you train it, pretty much. Like, so let's say we're here boxing, right? Let's say he throws a punch. We're training blows here with our boxing skills, whether it's the elbows or the Wing Chun trapping as we're striking in here, right? So that's similar in a lot of arts. Now, in Kali, we change that. How do we do that? We'll change it with weapons. So now we're going to do, we cannot, in the drills, you see a lot of this stuff. You can't trade blows with weapons. You'll both get cut and die, right?
Yep.
So the difference there now all of a sudden is that you're not going to see us exchange in here when we go live blade. Like, it becomes a trainer after a while. Once we decide, all right, let's see how much of that is really applicable when we're actually going live blade, then all of a sudden, boom, we're not even in front of each other. We're like, keep your distance, right? So therein lies how the footwork of Kali shows up. You're not going to stand there and trade blows, right? So there are differences in training. When you go live, you respect the weapon. When you're training, the respect is gone in the sense that we know we're not trying to hurt each other. But we need the feel of an attack. I need the impulse of touch. I need the exchange of energies when we're doing that. That's why we have different training tools. These are heavy sticks called kamagong. The old days of Kali, they use this, but it's too heavy and too dense. Vibrations give you tendinitis. When you're hitting, this is for fighting, but not for training. It's too heavy of that, you're going to hurt. You can use it as weight to get the weight feel, but still it's a very hard wood. That's why rattan sticks are the choice. They're light, but they're fibrous. Every time they get hit, it's absorbed by the stick. Now, the beauty of that is when all vibrations are absorbed in the stick, it teaches you to feel it. But when we actually strike here, I don't strike to block the stick. I strike to hit the stick with the stick and the other tip to hit the head. I will not hit the stick. But in training, if I keep on hitting his knuckles, hitting his head and everything, he won't come back to training, right? So when you hear the stick tick, that means it's to the body. It's not to the stick. We don't hit sticks. We don't block a stick. I block by hitting the hand. And once again, when you have a weapon, it's long range. Right? So why do we train medium range? Because I'm also actually training my empty hands more so than I'm actually putting the stick. But a weighted stick in this actually makes it resistance. I have to learn motions. Even if I'm a different grip, we'll do the same thing. Here I'm kind of free-flowing with the attacks, but these are drills very familiar to me that I can, just pretty much change the angles and Percy will have to deal with it. But in doing these kind of motions, even when I'm not looking and I can switch from right to left, it's because constant training allows us to be able to give this free flow. Now, notice I can keep my distance because Percy's not there to try to hit me. He's just looking at angles. If that angle's here, if angle is there, hitting strike and switching here, what else can he feed at me that makes it something very similar to where I'm changing the attacks when I'm doing this? Now, in so doing, that is the fun of the training. It's a question and answer. What if I came here? What if I came there? It's not, will this work in a fight? We're not fighting. We're trying to train so that it calms us down. The beauty of this is how are you learning? It's basically learning different answers in training. Yep. Right? If you come here, I'll do this. Oh, this is a cool way. This is cool. It's all about entertainment. For us, it's entertainment. If people go, well, is it going to work in the street? Why are you so focused on the fight? The fight is, I would never cut an arm and stab. I don't ever want to do that in real life. And now the ability to do that here, so why are you training that? So that I won't ever want to use it. But if ever I'm faced with it, I have some sort of answer.
Right.
Some sort of, but already at training and cutting and stuff, I know what it can do.
Yep.
So, will it ever work? I hope not, because I will take every step so that I don't ever get to the point of ever having to use it, period. Right. You can always walk away.
I think you made a good point in other trainings, other seminars, and throughout his martial arts life, is that it doesn't really take skill to be violent, right? Mm-hmm. You can, it's just, the jails are full of people who don't have any real skill. They just stab somebody, just put out a gun and shot somebody, so you don't need any skill. The skill is actually what helps keep you from putting yourself in a situation, first because you're training, right? So you're training so you're not out there. The skill also makes you aware, it gives you awareness. And the way we train the intent is always there. Even though we're not trying to hurt each other or hit each other, the intent is still there. So when he throws a punch, he's not throwing it to miss. He's throwing it at me, and I still have to block it. So whether I'm going slow or fast, the intent of the training is the reality of a punch, the reality of a knife coming. But it's training, so we're training to get better and skilled and be more relaxed. Because even as I've been training for this long with him, sometimes when we're training together, he's like, you got to relax. You got to calm down. You got to relax. When I go train with my guys, I'm telling them the same thing he's telling me. So it's really kind of levels, the same level. So like, if I train with somebody who has more experience, I maybe get a little tense. If I train with somebody who's less experienced, I'm more relaxed. So that's actually a great way to train too. So you want to train with people who are high level and people who are on your level and people who are a little bit lower. So you can learn those different aspects and it helps you in your overall training.
Yep. And also, the intensity of training should vary. You know, that's why we have reality-based training, where you're actually yelling at the person or cussing at them, because then when that happens in real fight, you have to be used to that. But then we're teaching, even though I yell at you and put all the stress on you, be relaxed. It's only words, it's only volume. In training, we say that the more relaxed you are, the faster you're going to be. So how come you're training, you're very tight? You should be relaxed. When always doing that, the relaxation and knowing when to amp it up or bring it down means that you can control your energies, right? By always saying, relax, relax. Well, stressful times always make you tense up, but we're teaching you how to relax when there's stress. And eventually to the point where there's confidence that you can control when to be relaxed and make better decisions, you can also control and then make better decisions not to fight.
Right.
You just walk away.
Yep.
The true training, when they say, does it work? You know what works? It truly means that the training you have works when you can walk away from a fight.
Yep.
Because you've controlled your ego. Your ego means nothing. Your ego wants you to fight. The true beast that you're really trying to stop yourself from fighting is yourself.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get into a fight.
Yep. It's hard to walk away from.
It's hard to walk away from that, right?
A lot of people have fear, and so they let the fear take over, and it's like, okay, I'm scared. So, but instead, if they learn how to calm down, relax, you can assess the situation and be like, you know what? I don't need to go there with this person. I can walk away. I'm confident in walking away because I'm saving him and I'm saving myself. I'm saving him from getting hurt. I'm saving myself from having to deal with it or possibly being hurt myself. Because just because you're skilled doesn't mean you're going to walk away from a fight. And if you get into a fight with weapons, you know, like we always say, if you pick up a knife, you're probably going to get cut. So you don't want to pick up the knife. You want to be able to use it, but you also want to be able the awareness of how to use it so that you don't put yourself in those situations to begin with.
And you know, when we talk about stuff being dangerous, right? It goes, so this is a very dangerous knife, right? It's a dangerous knife. It's a weapon for killing. Here. It's right there. It's a weapon. It's there for killing. Let's see it now kill someone. Let's see it now be dangerous and do mass destruction. Still there. So it doesn't matter what's in your hands, it's what the person who picks it up does with it, right? So why should you train when it comes to dangerous things? Just like firearms. A person who doesn't know what a gun does, how to clear, how to be safe, how to do that, who's never trained with their firearms, is the most dangerous person, because when they pick it up, that can go off anytime. You don't follow the rules. A person that knows how to train with something based on the safety issues, never to draw, not, all these safety issues, is a better trained person to be safe with it because they train with it. When you train with something, you know the do's and the don'ts. That's why training is important, especially when you have something there that is considered a weapon. But in the end, there is only one weapon. You. Not what you pick up. Everything is a tool. It's what you do with it that turns into a weapon. Did you know that? Did you know that I could get I could use this remote control. And if I use it as part of an assault, this is considered now a weapon. So when you see me carrying these and other stuff, it is meant to be a weapon, but it's also more than that. It could be my everyday carry for use. As a matter of fact, when's the last time I've ever used this for a fight? So everyday carry, it's a karambit. Well, are karambits created to be a weapon originally? Yes, because of the underhanded thing. That's how, because it mimics box. It mimics how the hand would move in a fight, right? But in everyday carry now, when I use this, it's in this grip, which is the really way to work things when you're working in the field, like a sickle, right? So every time I carry it all the time, I need something to open. Is this a weapon? No, look, it's the box opener. Now, the thing about a knife, I need to cant my knife down to cut the box. This already leads it into it. The tip leads into the box, so I can scrape it. I automatically are there for cutting it to open. How easy is that? If I want to cut a piece of rope, it's already angled, so the rope doesn't escape. I want to tie something and cut, I have to run it through this way. This one already captures it. So I've been using this. I need to puncture something. It doesn't have to be straight long puncture. I can puncture things this way. You see, leading with it too. I can puncture into that. So it's a great everyday carry tool. It's because I understand it and I use it as such, not just as a weapon. But when people don't understand, they fear, they label it automatically. Yeah. You know, and that's a problem. They label things because of their lack of understanding with that.
Yep, everything becomes just, they're all knives, they're all this, they're all that, instead of actually paying attention to the details. And the details is what makes the difference in anything, right? Big movements, but it's the small details that make a difference between something working, not working, something being a tool or a weapon, or vice versa. A weapon is a tool or a tool is a weapon. So even though we use these as tools, we are the weapon. So when we pick up something, no matter what we pick up, whether it's, like I said, this to change the channel, or this to protect ourselves or to attack somebody, this is either a tool to change the channel, or it's a weapon to help defend ourselves. And that's what, you know, the system really teaches, is that whatever you pick up, know the ins and outs, the positives, the negatives of whatever you're picking up or what you're holding, and how it can be used in your everyday life, and as possibly a way to defend yourself if something happens.
Yep. And the most important thing, of course, is responsibility. Take responsibility for the things you've learned and the things that you're going to do with it, period. You're accountable for that. The law says ignorance of the law is not an excuse. So ignorance of, I didn't know it was a weapon, or ignorance of, know the laws of your state, of where you are, and be responsible with it. Now, the other thing I want to talk about also when we're talking about martial art training is that there are different phases of getting to where you are, right? What we've been doing, once again, are the drills. The way I was taught, and the way we teach in Marcaida Kali, is you start from scratch. And the main thing is you start with what wields the weapon, the body. So we have footwork, because you want to learn not to stand there, because the best target to be is one that's not there. I can run. I can run to pick up another weapon. I can run to save my life. I can run just to not even be part of this whole situation. So we have footwork patterns. And then we have striking movements that mimic the clock system to teach you the different angles. And why do you have so many different angles? Because if it's about just keeping it simple, just strike this way. You know, they say, what's the most basic strike? This. What is the most advanced strike? This, right? But what makes my simple strike better than your simple strike? That I can do other stuff too. Because if I can do this and that, then I can do that so much easier, right? So that's why we add that. The fancy, complex moves of martial arts are there also for a different reason. It's not just there because of the La La Land fantasy of it. Number one, it's fun.
Yep.
But number two, I believe it really brings it down. It calms your soul. Meaning, there's a reality-based training when I was teaching military, right? To take a knife and start stabbing. Keep it simple. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, boom. That's all it was, but very violent act, right? You're going in there, get it done, and get it. None of this fancy. Get it done. Keeping it simple. Simply violent act is all they were doing. Now I'm done training. Let me go home and hug my kids.
Right.
You're still up here. How are you going to be able to do that? That violent act. So, in our training, as much as you need that, because you got to control adrenaline, you also have to wait to bring it down. Now, all of a sudden, if we do simple, let's drill and drill. We do like simple drills. I give and take. I go attack here. And he's just reacting to this. It's a free flow cuts. I attack this way. I attack that way. Cutting. I switch grips. Now we're going to do this. And as we're doing all these motions and we're going to play with this, all that play required my focus not to hurt him and not to hurt myself, required focus to have the right reaction to the right feed, because we're giving and taking, and nobody's trying to hurt each other. The right focus of my mechanics of moving, all that complex hula bala. What's a hula bala?
I
don't know, right? But all that halabula, whatever that is, all that, that foo-foo stuff that they call, right? Relaxed me. From this violent and constant intent of reality-based training to something to bring you back down, so we don't release a cycle out there after your training, especially if that's the kind of training you're used to, right? That Cobra Cry, hardcore, crazy, intense. There's a need for different kinds of training. So when it comes to training, you start to learn how to move the feet, and you learn how to move the body, proper balance, and everything else. Then once you learn your forms, you learn how to strike. Then you have to have impact. That's another training. Now we're just going to hit something. He's going to stand there, and now we don't have training, so just use that. And now that's a feed. The stick is it's just there. Just leave the stick. That's it. He's not. So they go, why is he just standing there, not hitting back, right? So when we do drill, I would never feed a stick like that. Well, that's because he's feeding. I would never strike like that. He's not striking. He's giving me. So if I learn the form to be, this is my form, that's my form, this is the form. In the air, just like that. Form number one, All of a sudden now I've learned that. Well, all of a sudden we go, oh, that's how it feels when I'm hitting something. But he's not hitting me. Just like when you're going to the firing range and you're shooting at something. Is the target shooting back at you? No. Why? Because if he's going to try to strike me and I'm still learning this, I'm like, I don't want to get hit. So I'm not really fully extending myself. See the difference? You want to be able to express your strike without fear of getting hit. Because if I'm here and I'm afraid to get hit, I'm not going to fully extend. So I have the trust that he's acting as my target in a feed. Whether I have different feeds and everything, that's that. Once you have that, then we put these motions in a drill that's preset, so that, this is the give and take I'm saying. This is one of our drills, right? The Subrada drill. And there are many versions of this, but when I'm doing this, note I didn't have to see him because I know the different angles that I'm so used to. We've done it so many times. But I'm learning to defend and I strike. I'm learning to defend and I strike. I'm learning to attack and strike. I'm learning to defend and strike. So many ways to do that. But what happens is nobody's involved in the actual fight. I'm just learning repetition of different strikes, whether it's a defense or offense. But the target's not trying to hit me, so I'm still safe. I'm not afraid because I know that he's not allowed to hit. Look, you just go get boom, or you can go get boom, just hit him. Where's the training in that? So I'm in control, he's in control. That's the key again. Being in control. That we're doing this and I'm relaxed. I'm controlling my energy. I'm controlling my adrenaline. I'm controlling my moves. That's important to do also because it's developing that trait. But we're not trying to hurt each other. So when I'm giving impact training, he's just standing, he's the feeder. That's what I mean by feeder. And then later on, it'll be his turn, and he does the same thing, and I just stand here, and he's got something to do that. Once we've mastered this part of the training, then we do the drilling. It's preset. Then we do the drilling offset, meaning I will just feed any way I want. He has to deal with this, I feed whatever way I do. I'll put in that. These are the X factors, right? So we use the skill to go back to the drill. But sometimes when I do this, I'll throw that in. I'll throw the elbow in. I'll throw the punch in. So he has to deal with any kind of weird attacks that I give him. Now it's double weapons training. He has to deal with that attack. So I'm constant. So that's the factor to stay in control. Don't panic. It's just the same thing. Just different things are coming at you. But you stay in control. We're still not trying to hit each other. But then you go to the next piece once you master that, which is sparring. But even in the sparring process, you work by steps, just like in boxing. I try to follow the arts that when they spar, they look exactly the way they train. Boxing, kickboxing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that's the same thing. So when I look at those, fencing, those are what I want. Because if I see all these katas and forms and everything, but when you spar, you're all over the place, it's got nothing to do with your skill, I'm like, why bother doing the training? Although now I understand that doing the drills and everything else develop other things, not necessarily the physical things, right? But I like to see that where I see in boxing, the process there is what? You learn how to shadow box. You learn your fundamentals, right? When you're doing that. Then you learn to hit a focus mitt. Now he's telling you where to target and he calls it out. Then every so often, as he's doing the focus mitt, he throws a hit at you. That's the same thing here. That, something's coming at me. And then you do the actual sparring where even then at the beginning to build up to it, it has to be preset. Meaning, I want him to always do a jab. Here. Always a backhand jab, right? A backhand jab, backhand jab. It's a backhand jab. Jab. That's all he's allowed to do. So I can attack different ways. His job is to find out how to do that when I spar with him, right? That's all he's allowed to do when we're sparring. We're trying to hit each other, right? But that's all, because that develops that. Now maybe it's a jab and wutik, right? The jab, wutik, jab, wutik, jab, wutik, jab, wutik, jab, wutik, jab, wutik, jab, wutik. So that still it is technical in nature. Then later on, I start to put a feed and I attack him. Feed and I attack him. Feed, I attack, and I attack. So he's got to still use those skills to protect himself. So there's a sparring process. And then later on, free sparring. That's where, hopefully at that point, you have all the different skills to be able to react to anything that's coming that's not choreographed or that is not held back. And that's how. Those are the stages. Those are the stages we don't put on tape. Number one, I got to be safe. I'm on TV now. I got to protect this look over here. But we still do other ways. That's why we also train with padded sticks. These very wak-wak guys, which is basically a rattan stick, but with pads. So even if we make, the strike here to the hand, he can still take it, right? As opposed to strike with a real stick. Just to be able to do that when you're training with that. Everything is perishable with the way you train with it. But once again, impact is important for that training.
Yeah, I think what it's going back to, too, is just, the training the right way, knowing why you're doing what you're doing. So don't just like, okay, we're going to go out there and fight, why are you fighting? Why are you sparring? Why are you doing this? Always know why you're doing what you're doing so that you can get the most out of it. Because a lot of times you're doing things, you don't know why you're doing it, and sometimes you're too afraid to ask, or the intent of the exercise is not what you actually think it is. So you want to know why you're training, what you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing. That's why we break it down. So like, okay, I'm just going to do a backhand, so that you understand different angles of the backhand, different things that come in. You can still use your backhand, things that may work, things that may not work, things that possibly could work, but you never know. So you're trying to figure those things out. It also makes you relaxed. Every time you do something, I'm relaxed. I'm relaxed. I'm relaxed. Because then when you add another thing in, you start the energy starts to rise up. Nope, you got to calm down, because it's still, you still got to stay relaxed in order to be able to meet and be able to see and be able to react. Because if you get too stiff, then you can't move. That's why you want to stay relaxed, and that's why we add all these elements in here in the segments, so that as you're building and making those things more complicated, you're also able to stay relaxed, so that you can move like you're supposed to move, or move with efficiency. So the key is not only to do the exercises, but to learn how to relax while you're doing the exercises, especially as they get more complicated.
And the bottom line of that is to understand. One of the things that, the system we call is called a thought-provoking process. Meaning, I'll show you something. Now, show me 5 different interpretations of that one thing I showed. What? Well, that's thought-provoking now. Not just, I teach you this, all right? That's all you learn, this one thing that I taught you. If I show you a thought-provoking process, you're continuously learning. It's the same adage as, if you feed a man fish, you fed him fish for the day. You teach him how to fish, then you fed him for life, because you get more than one thing. One of the ways my teacher would do that is, okay, so I'll go, all right, feed this way, okay? He's going to show me one way to disarm. So I'll go, I'm going to show a disarm here. I'm going to show check, and I'm going to go behind, and I'm going to disarm. All right, good. Now he does it. Check, behind, and then disarm. All right, good. Now I'll ask him, show me 4 more ways with this one entry right here. So this is the entry. Show me another disarm. Bang. All right, same entry. Show me another disarm. All right, that's different. Okay. Show me another disarm. Okay. So in one entry, he can decide to go here. 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 He can decide to do the weapon. So many ways. But today, the lesson was this one entry. But by showing him one technique, but he said, come up with 4 more. The fact that you came up with 4 more is yours forever, because you had a thought-provoking process. that this can be so many different things if you start to see sectors. So the one lesson isn't this one technique. It's multiple techniques because you're looking at understanding the principle, not the technique. That's a thought-provoking process.
Right. Yeah, and the angles always apply, whether it's, like say the clock system, right? 1 through 11, you can be 1 through 11 on the head, 1 through 11 on the torso, 1 through 11 on the hand. So no matter what you're doing, clock system, clock system, clock system. So the angles are already same, whether I do a small one to the head, a little bigger one to the torso, or an even smaller one to the hand, you're still doing the same thing. And again, it follows you throughout the system. So you haven't taught me just that one thing that I can do in this one period. That whole thing in the clock system is going to follow me all the way through as I keep training through my whole life of training. That's the connection right there.
Yep. Anyways, this is a short talk today that we're doing experimentally with the Kali Talk with Percy Thomas. And I hope you guys enjoy this. We got to run out and do the other things. Next up, we're going to try to do and share it with our friends in Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
Yeah, don't forget May 20th and 21st. Come out. The Karambit seminar, Way of the Karambit. We're going to get busy. It's going to be a fun-filled day. 2 whole days of training with Doug.
Yeah.
Myself a little bit, but 2 full days of training.
And definitely one of the things that, we love, because you'll see all these principles we're talking about, it's going to be on that 2-day training. Right. It's very seldom that I get to do seminars anymore. So I did one in the West Coast. We're coming back in October to the West Coast to finish the day 2. On this one, it's 2 days in one area. We're going to get as much in because, one day it's not enough. I mean, There's so much to do and people already, your brain can only take so much. But I love what I do. But then you guys asked for it. I put it together. Sign up and join us.
East Coast, show out. Come on, everybody.
Right.
New York, the Tri-State area, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. You guys get in. Let's go.
Yep.
Let's go.
Because you don't know when I'm going to do it again.
That's right. So you better get there. 2 days.
All right, guys. Take care.
See you
then.